Across the galaxy, there were stories that no one dared to say too loudly. Stories about Earth. Children of alien worlds whispered them in dark halls before sleep, and soldiers told them in quiet barracks before war. They were not myths, they were warnings. Humans, the stories said, were different from every other race. While most species bent under the weight of disasters, humans endured. While diseases wiped out whole planets, humans found cures. While wars turned empires to ashes, humans rose again from rubble, fiercer than before. Never go to Earth, the elders always warned. Never wake what sleeps there. And so Earth became a shadow in the stars, a world marked as cursed. For centuries, no ship dared approach, no empire dared touch it. Humanity's last known signals faded into silence, and some even believed the species had burned itself out. But fear lingered. Fear of what humans had once been, and of what they could still be. Then the galaxy's nightmares changed. One by one, fleets vanished. Strong fleets, mighty fleets, fleets that had ruled sectors for 1,000 years. They simply disappeared. Patrols sent to search for them never returned. At first, alien leaders told their people it was war. They whispered about rival empires, pirates, uprisings, but then entire star systems went dark. On the edges of known space, colonies fell silent. Planets that had once sent trade ships every day no longer answered calls. Long-range sensors recorded only fragments, shadows moving across suns, unnatural signals cutting through the void. Screams carried on broken transmissions. Something was hunting them. In the beginning, the galaxy only whispered. But as more systems fell, whispers turned to fear and fear turned into panic. For the first time in centuries, the great alien powers called for a council. The chamber was carved into the heart of a hollowed asteroid, shielded by layers of metal and energy fields. Around a massive round table, the leaders of the most powerful civilizations gathered. They did not look like friends. They looked like frightened creatures trapped in the same cage. The Zalathi speaker clicked his mandibles, his voice sharp. We lose fleets, entire armadas. Our weapons do nothing. The swarm grows. A tall, crystalline being of the Valan pulsed with dim light. They consume worlds. We have seen it. They drink suns until they dim. We cannot fight such hunger. The council chamber trembled with their voices, each alien desperate, each one looking for someone else to carry the burden. Then the oldest voice in the room spoke. The Archon of the Threxians, a race that remembered wars long forgotten. His scaled head bowed low. There was one race, he said slowly, one species that fought against things like this before, a people who endured when no one else could. The chamber grew silent. Everyone knew who he meant. Humans, whispered the Valan, its crystal form flickering with unease. The word alone seemed to freeze the air. Many shifted nervously in their seats, their bodies tense. Some hissed, others muttered curses in their tongues. The Zalathi speaker slammed a claw against the table. No, it hissed. We will not call them. They are monsters. Do you not remember the old wars? The human plagues, the fire they carried across the stars? If they still lived, they would turn on us all. Others nodded quickly. Memories of human history were soaked in blood. They had fought wars not just against enemies, but against themselves. They had torn their world apart and rebuilt it countless times. To the council, they were not saviors. They were nightmares in flesh. But the Archon did not flinch. His golden eyes glared at the others. And yet they survived. Every war, every disaster, every extinction. Tell me, what other race here can claim the same? Silence again. Heavy, suffocating silence. The truth was painful. No matter how much they hated humans, no matter how much they feared them, no other race had their resilience. No other race had the madness to keep fighting when all hope was gone. At last the Valan pulsed faintly. Earth has been silent for centuries. No signals, no ships. Perhaps they are gone. Perhaps the stories are only shadows. But the Archon shook his head slowly. No, I do not believe they are gone. I believe they are waiting. The council chamber grew colder. The idea was terrifying. If humanity had survived in silence, what had they been preparing for? Why had they never returned to the stars? The Zalathi speaker growled. And if they refuse us? If they strike us down instead of this enemy? We would be handing our throats to them, perhaps, said the Archon. But if we do nothing, the swarm will take us all. Our fleets are nothing. Our weapons are dust. There is only one chance left. The council argued for hours, voices rising into chaos. Some demanded action. Others swore they would never allow humans to return. In the end, fear made the choice for them. They could not face the doom alone. At last, a decision was carved into the records of the galaxy. A ship would be sent to the one place no one dared to go. To Earth. As the chamber emptied, the Valon Elder lingered, whispering words that chilled even the strongest among them. Pray that humanity is gone. For if they are not, we will be at their mercy. And so in the silence of the void, a single alien ship turned its path toward a small, forgotten blue world, toward the place the galaxy had sworn to never touch, Earth. But Earth had been silent for centuries. No messages. No ships, nothing. The question hung heavy in the void. Had humanity vanished into history? Or were they waiting in the shadows, preparing for this very moment? The aliens would soon find out. The alien ship drifted into the shadow of Earth, its hull cracked and scarred from battles it had barely survived. Inside, the crew sat in silence, their eyes fixed on the blue and green world below. It looked peaceful, almost innocent, spinning quietly in the black void. But they all knew the legends. They all knew the warnings. "Never come here," whispered one of them in a trembling voice. "Never wake the humans." Yet here they were, desperate and without choices. Their fleets had been torn apart, their colonies reduced to ashes, and the swarm grew stronger every day. If there was even a chance, just a chance, that humanity still lived, they had to try. The ship's captain, a pale-skinned being with 4 luminous eyes, stood at the front console. His name was Koresh, and though fear gripped his crew, he forced his voice to remain steady. "Transmit the signal," he ordered. The comms officer hesitated. "And if they answer? Then we pray they still remember mercy." The signal was sent. A simple broadcast. Universal distress call, desperate plea for aid. For hours they waited. No response. Earth remained silent, turning slowly in the void as if it did not even notice their presence. The crew grew restless. Some begged to leave, to flee before the humans awoke. Others demanded they try again. Koresh said nothing. He only stared at the planet below, wondering if they had come too late. Then, without warning, something moved. Old satellites, rusted machines from centuries past, suddenly came alive. They turned in perfect unison, their dead eyes glowing with faint red light. One by one they aimed their sensors at the alien vessel, locking onto it with precision that made every heart in the ship freeze. "They see us," whispered the comms officer. The alien crew panicked. Some shouted to retreat, others to hide. But before Koresh could speak, the ship shook violently. Her beam of scanning light swept across their hull, peeling through shields, peeling through secrets, seeing everything inside. Then, silence again. The crew held their breath. Minutes dragged like hours. The captain clenched his fists. He thought of the stories. Humans who had burned empires. Humans who had fought even when entire worlds collapsed around them. Were those stories lies, or were they about to meet the monsters of legend face to face? At last a sound broke the silence. A voice. It did not come in the alien tongue. It came in perfect translation. A cold, heavy voice that carried across every deck of the ship. "You should not have come here." The crew froze. Their eyes darted to one another, terror written across every face. Koresh swallowed, forcing himself to speak. "We seek help," he said, his voice shaking. "Our worlds are falling. The swarm consumes us. Please, if you still exist, if you still fight, we beg for aid." There was no reply. The ship drifted in darkness, surrounded by the dead satellites waiting for judgment. Then at last the voice returned. "We warned the galaxy. We told them to prepare. None listened. And now you bring this doom to our door." The crew's hearts sank. They could hear the edge in the voice, not anger, not cruelty, but weariness. As though whoever spoke had seen this fate before. Koresh bowed his head. "Then let us die here. If we return, we will only die in the dark. If you will not help, then take us as you will. But I beg you, do not ignore what is coming." The silence stretched on, and then something shifted. From Earth's surface, lights erupted. They were not random, thousands of them, forming patterns, glowing brighter than the cities of old. The lights merged into lines and the lines into symbols, until the planet itself seemed to breathe with hidden power. The crew stared in awe. They never left," one whispered. "No," another said. "They've been waiting. The voice returned, softer now but still carrying weight. "Follow the signal. Land where we guide you. Do not stray, do not question. You have one chance." A single beacon lit up across Earth's surface, pulsing slowly like a heartbeat. The alien ship adjusted course, drawn to it as if by gravity. The descent was terrifying. Storms raged in the upper atmosphere, lightning tearing through the clouds as though the world itself wanted them gone. The hangar's silence pressed down on the alien crew like a weight. The human stood before them, tall and lean, wearing armor that seemed ancient yet alive with faint blue veins of light. His eyes burned in the dim glow, sharp and unyielding. Koresh, the alien captain, forced himself to step forward. His throat felt dry, but he spoke anyway. We beg for your help. The swarm devours everything. Entire systems vanish. We cannot stop them. Please." The human raised a hand, silencing him. "We know." Those two words froze the crew. Shock rippled across them. How could humanity already know of the swarm? Their fleets had only begun falling a few cycles ago. Even the fastest transmissions would not have reached Earth this soon. Koresh tried again, his voice unsteady. If you know, then you understand. We cannot face this alone." The human's expression did not change. He turned, his footsteps echoing as he walked deeper into the massive chamber. Without looking back, he spoke. "Follow me." The aliens hesitated. Some muttered protests, others shook with fear. But Koresh gave the order, and together they descended from their ship. The ground beneath their feet was not simple stone. It was metal, etched with lines that hummed faintly, as if the entire hangar was alive. They followed the human through vast corridors that seemed carved for giants. Ancient banners hung in tatters along the walls, marked with human symbols. Strange machines rested in alcoves, silent but waiting, their shapes unlike any weapon the aliens had ever seen. At last, the group entered a colossal hall. The crew gasped. Before them stretched rows upon rows of ships, massive human warships, black as the void, hidden deep beneath the earth for centuries. Each one was scarred with old battle marks, but their cores still pulsed with faint light. These were not new creations. These were relics, survivors of wars long forgotten. Koresh's voice trembled. You fought them before." The human turned, his face hard as stone. "Yes, thousands of years ago. When the swarm first came, they burned through our colonies, our fleets, our cities. We bled, we broke, but we did not fall. We pushed them back." He walked slowly among the silent ships, his hand brushing against their armored hulls. "The galaxy thought we were reckless, thought we were dangerous, because we never stopped fighting even when it meant destroying ourselves. But they never knew why we fought so hard. We were preparing. Always preparing." The alien crew stood in stunned silence. All those stories, all those warnings about humanity's cruelty and bloodlust. It had never been for conquest. It had been for survival. One of the aliens, voice shaking, asked, "Why did you disappear? Why hide here while the galaxy thought you gone?" The human stopped. For the first time, his expression softened, touched by something deeper than anger. Because the galaxy did not listen. We tried to warn them. We showed them the swarm's patterns, their hunger, their tactics. They called us liars. They called us monsters. So we let them forget us. Better to vanish into myth than waste breath on deaf ears. He turned sharply, his eyes burning with quiet fury. "And now you come to us only when the shadow is at your throat." The words cut deep. The alien crew lowered their heads in shame. Koresh struggled for words, but none came. What excuse could they offer? Their empires had ignored the very ones who had once stood against this doom. The human walked to the far end of the hall. There a vast screen flickered to life. It displayed maps of the galaxy, systems marked in red, spreading outward like a disease. The swarm was already everywhere, faster and larger than the aliens had realized. "You see?" the human said coldly. "We knew. We've been tracking them since their first stirrings at the edge of the void. Every time your fleets vanished, we saw. Every time your colonies went dark, we marked it." Koresh's voice broke the silence. "Then you are ready to fight them again." The human stared at him for a long time, then slowly shook his head. "We are never ready. No one can ever be ready for the swarm. But we endure. That is the difference." The alien crew exchanged uneasy glances. If humanity was their only hope, then this war would not be one of quick victories. It would be a war of survival, one that would demand everything. At last the human faced them fully. His voice was heavy like iron. If you want our help, you must understand the cost. We do not fight halfway. We do not fight to survive only today. We fight until the enemy is nothing but ash in the stars. That is the price of calling on humanity. We will save you, yes, but we will drag you into a war that will break your bodies, your fleets, your worlds. Koresh's heart pounded. He knew what the man meant. If they joined with humanity, they would never be able to step back. There would be no surrender, no retreat, only war until the end. Still, what choice did they have? Koresh lowered his head in a deep bow. Then so be it. Whatever the cost, we stand with you. The human studied him, silent for a long moment. Then, for the first time, a faint smile touched his lips, but it was not a smile of kindness. It was the smile of a soldier who knew war better than peace. Then prepare your crew, he said, because when humanity fights, there is no turning back. Behind him, the massive ships that had slept for centuries began to stir. Engines rumbled, lights blazed to life, and the ancient war machines of Earth woke once more. The galaxy had feared humanity for centuries. Now, for the first time, they would see the truth. Humanity was not the doom of the stars. Humanity was the shield against it, and the shield was rising again. The alien crew had never seen such a sight. Deep beneath the surface of Earth, the colossal hall now thundered with life. The human warships, dark giants of steel and fire, awoke from their centuries of silence. Engines roared, weapons hummed, and lights burned like suns across their armored hulls. It was as though a sleeping beast had risen, shaking off its chains. The alien captain, Koresh, could only watch in awe. His four luminous eyes widened as row after row of ships came alive. They were unlike anything his people had built, each vessel scarred by old battles yet stronger for it, each designed not for elegance but for survival. These were ships built by a race that had stared death in the face and chosen to fight anyway. The human who had greeted them, Commander Rourke, stood at the center of the chamber, arms folded. His face was lit only by the glow of the ships awakening behind him. "You wanted our help?" Rourke said, his voice carrying like steel across the cavern. "Then listen carefully. This war is unlike anything you have faced. Your fleets were never meant to endure it. Your weapons are toys. Your strategies are built on fear of losses. That ends here." Koresh stepped forward, his voice uneasy. "Now you speak as if we are children." Rourke's cold eyes locked onto him. "You are." The alien crew bristled, some muttering angrily, but none dared interrupt further. Rourke gestured to the vast screen behind him, where the galaxy unfolded in glowing lights. Entire sectors were already stained in red, territories consumed by the swarm. The red lines spread like veins of fire, reaching deeper into inhabited space with every passing cycle. They are not an enemy you can negotiate with, not a rival you can scare. They are hunger given form, a machine swarm older than empires, built for a single purpose, to consume until nothing remains. They do not retreat. They do not sleep. They do not stop. He pressed a command and the screen shifted. Now it showed patterns of attacks, fleets vanishing in spirals, colonies collapsing in waves. The swarm was not random. It was precise, calculated. "They study you," Rourke said. "Every ship you send, they learn from. Every weapon you fire, they adapt to. And once they understand you, you are nothing but fuel." The alien crew shivered. Koresh felt his throat tighten. His fleets had fallen exactly this way, confident at first, then confused, then devoured. Rourke's voice sharpened. "That is why we fight differently. We do not fight to survive battles. We fight to break the swarm before it breaks us. That is the only way." The hall dimmed and new symbols glowed on the screen. Human blueprints. Weapons the aliens had never seen. Strange, brutal designs. Weapons that bent energy, tore through shields, burned swarms in controlled bursts of fire. Koresh stared in shock. These were not theories. They were tested. Humans had used them before. "You knew," Koresh whispered. "You've known all along." Rourke turned to face him, eyes hard as stone. "Of course. We fought them long before you were born. We bled for this knowledge. While your empires fought over borders and wealth, we prepared. We buried ourselves in silence so when the swarm returned, we would be ready." The alien crew exchanged uneasy glances. They had always feared humanity's silence. Now they understood. Humanity had not been hiding. Humanity had been sharpening its blade in the dark. One of Koresh's officers, voice trembling, asked the question everyone feared. "And if even your weapons fail?" For the first time, Rourke's expression darkened further. Then we burn ourselves with them. That is humanity's way. If we cannot survive, we make sure they do not either. The words chilled the aliens. This was why humanity was feared. Not because they were cruel. Not because they were reckless, but because when faced with extinction, they would choose fire that consumed both themselves and their enemies. No other race would dare such madness. Koresh stepped closer, his voice low. You would sacrifice everything. Even your world. Rourke's jaw tightened. If it means the galaxy lives, yes. That is the difference between us and you. You fear death. We have lived with it so long, we know it well. The alien fleet drifted cautiously in orbit around Earth, their great ships forming a wall of silver and black against the void. From above, the planet looked quiet. Too quiet. There were no satellites, no defense grids, not even the faint hum of commerce or communication. To the Council's soldiers, it looked like a dead world. But the leaders knew better. Earth's silence was never natural. It was chosen. Inside the Council chamber aboard the flagship, tension thickened like smoke. The alien leaders argued once again. Some wanted to scan the planet fully, to search its oceans, its lands, its skies. Others whispered that such a move would wake whatever humanity was hiding. They left this world barren to mislead us. One counselor hissed, his scaled hands trembling. I can feel it. Earth is not dead. Here it is waiting. Another counselor slammed his clawed fist against the table. If humanity lives, then why have they ignored the galaxy for centuries? Why not answer our calls? Why not join us against the doom? That word, doom, hung in the air like poison. The Council had given the name to the enemy that swallowed fleets and extinguished stars. No one knew what it was. No one could find its shape or weakness. They only knew it spread like a disease and left nothing alive. The Council's leader, High Speaker Jiroth, stood tall in the middle of the chamber. His dark eyes turned toward Earth. Perhaps silence itself is their weapon, he said slowly. Perhaps they saw the doom long before we did. A hush followed his words. It was not impossible. Humanity had always seen further, thought faster, fought harder. Perhaps they had disappeared not out of weakness, but to prepare. At that moment, the ship's sensors caught movement. A signal, ancient, broken, but unmistakably human, rose from Earth's surface. It was not a distress call. It was a warning. The alien leaders froze as the voice echoed through the chamber, distorted by centuries of silence. Do not search. Do not follow. Do not awaken what sleeps beneath. The signal cut off abruptly. Panic erupted. Some counselors shouted to retreat at once. Others demanded the truth. What was beneath Earth? What could even humanity fear? But High Speaker Jiroth raised his hand for silence. If humanity feared it, he said grimly, then it is what we need to face. The doom has no mercy. If humanity built a weapon here, then we must risk it. Reluctantly, they agreed to send a landing party. Not soldiers, but envoys. If humanity still lived, only respect and caution could bring them out of hiding. The landing ship descended through Earth's silent atmosphere. The surface stretched wide with ruined cities and crumbling towers. Grass and forests had grown over streets where billions once lived. To the envoys it looked like a graveyard, yet as they walked through the ruins they felt it, eyes watching them, shadows moving between broken windows, a strange hum beneath the earth, faint but steady, like the heartbeat of a machine that had never stopped. Then, in the middle of a ruined plaza, the envoys saw them. Humans, they were not the soft, fragile beings the envoys remembered from old recordings. These humans were taller, harder, with pale eyes that glowed faintly in the dark. They carried no weapons, yet the air around them felt heavy, charged, dangerous. One stepped forward, his voice calm but sharp. You should not have come here. The envoys bowed, fear clear in their movements. We seek your help. The galaxy burns. The doom takes everything. Only humanity can stop it. The man studied them for a long moment. Then he smiled, but it was not a kind smile. It was a smile of someone who knew truths too heavy to share. You are already too late, he said. The doom you fear is not your enemy. It is the shadow of something greater. And Earth is the lock holding it back. The envoys felt their hearts freeze. A lock? What did that mean? Before they could ask, the ground trembled. The hum beneath the earth grew louder, shaking the ruins around them. Dust fell from broken towers. A low roar rose from deep below, as if something vast had stirred. The humans did not flinch. Instead, the leader raised his hand. You brought the galaxy's eyes here, and now what sleeps beneath is waking. The envoys looked at each other in horror. They had come seeking salvation. But had they instead unleashed something far worse? High above in orbit, the alien fleet detected energy readings rising from beneath Earth's crust. Massive, unnatural, older than any known civilization. The fleet's soldiers whispered in terror. The councillors shouted demands. But one thought echoed louder than all others. Had humanity been Earth's protector? Or its jailer? The answer lay beneath their feet, rumbling in the dark, ready to rise. The alien envoys staggered back as the ground cracked beneath their feet. Dust rose like smoke. The ancient hum beneath Earth, once faint, now thundered like drums of war. The human leader stood tall in the crumbling plaza, his pale eyes glowing brighter. He did not move, did not panic. Instead, he spoke as if repeating words passed down for generations. It is awake now, and you will see what we have guarded for centuries. The envoys trembled. What lies beneath? The man's gaze swept over the ruined towers, the silent sky, the distant forests that had reclaimed the old world. Not a weapon, not an army, but the thing your doom was born from, the first hunger, the devourer of suns. The words struck like lightning. The envoys gasped. Could such a thing exist? If so, why hide it here on Earth? Why not destroy it? As if hearing their thoughts, the man continued, his voice heavy with sorrow. It cannot be destroyed. Only chained. Only watched. That is why we stayed silent. That is why Earth vanished from your maps. We were never gone. We were guarding the lock. Before the envoys could answer, the plaza split open. A deep chasm tore through the stone, glowing with red light far below. From the abyss rose a sound that no living creature should ever hear, half a roar, half a scream, endless, eternal. High in orbit, the alien fleet detected it too. Energy spikes rose off the scale. Ships shook as if something was pulling at space itself. Something is breaching. One commander cried. The councillors shouted in terror. Some demanded retreat. Others wanted to fire every weapon at Earth immediately. But High Speaker Jiroth only stared, his dark eyes wide with dread. On the surface, the humans stood calm, even as the chasm widened and black tendrils of energy licked the air. The leader raised his hand, and suddenly the Earth itself responded. Towers of metal rose from beneath the soil, ancient machines hidden for centuries, still alive, still waiting. The envoys stumbled back as massive structures unfolded like blooming flowers. They were not ships, not weapons in the way the Council knew. They were prisons built not to kill but to hold. This is why you feared us, the human leader said. Not because of what we could do to you, but because of what we were keeping from you. The alien envoys dropped to their knees, shaking. You mean... The doom, the man cut them off. The doom you face is its shadow. A fragment that escaped long ago. You thought it was the end, but it was only the beginning. The chasm shook violently. A shape began to rise. The air grew heavy, thick, almost liquid. The stars above seemed to dim. The alien fleet tried to lock sensors on it, but their instruments failed. Data fractured into static. Ships flickered with power failures. Something enormous, incomprehensible, was crawling toward the surface. Inside the council chamber, chaos erupted. Councillors screamed for retreat, others for attack. Some simply stood in silence, their courage shattered. High Speaker Jiroth's voice cut through the panic. If humanity held it this long, then we must trust them now. No other race has survived its touch. But even he trembled as he spoke. On the surface, the human leader finally turned to the envoys, his glowing eyes filled with something between pity and resolve. Your people were right to fear us. We are not your saviors. We are your wall, your last barrier, and now, that wall is cracking. As the abyss rumbled, the humans raised their hands in unison. The great towers around the plaza pulsed with light, ancient chains of energy wrapping downward into the dark. They strained, groaned, and burned against the shape struggling to rise. The envoys felt the ground shake under their feet. The humans were not just watchers. They were fighting the thing beneath, binding it with will and technology fused together. But the doom, its shadow that had been consuming the galaxy, had weakened the lock by feeding, growing, spreading. And now the true source of that horror pushed against its prison. Above in orbit, the alien soldiers prayed in silence. They had come seeking help, but instead found a nightmare chained only by human defiance. And as the towers cracked and sparks flew into the night sky, one truth became clear to all who witnessed it. If humanity failed now, the galaxy would not face mere extinction. It would face something older than stars, something that had been waiting, something that had finally begun to awaken. The Earth shook, as though the planet itself was trying to escape what clawed its way upward. The ancient towers blazed with blue-white light, their energy arcs stretching deep into the abyss. The humans stood at the center, their glowing eyes locked in concentration, binding the thing that stirred below. The alien envoys could only stare. Their bodies trembled, their minds reeling. They had come seeking humanity as saviors, but what they saw was worse than any nightmare. "Hold the chains," the human leader shouted. His voice carried like thunder, not only to his people but through the comms of the alien fleet above. "Do not interfere. Do not fire. If the lock breaks fully, no weapon you know will matter." In orbit, panic spread among the alien soldiers. Their screens turned black one by one, as the thing beneath Earth distorted space itself. Some ships began to spin wildly, their systems failing. The captain screamed for orders. High Speaker Jaroth raised his trembling hand. "Steady!" he commanded. "Do nothing. Watch them." And so they watched. From the chasm a shape began to emerge. Not flesh, not machine, but something in between. Its form shifted like smoke, but weighed on the air like mountains. Black tendrils coiled into the sky, blotting out stars. Its roar tore through every mind, alien, human, and machine alike. It was hunger given form. The envoys fell to the ground, clutching their heads. This is what you kept hidden." The human leader did not look at them. His pale eyes glowed brighter, veins of light racing across his skin. "We are not what you thought. We are not warriors. We are wardens." The words struck deeper than any weapon. The galaxy had feared humanity for centuries, believing them violent, unpredictable, too dangerous to trust. But now the truth was worse. Humanity was not feared because of what it could do, but because of what it had to hold back. The chains of energy groaned. The monster pulled harder, cracks splitting across the towers. Sparks rained down like stars dying. One human woman cried out, staggering. "The lock is failing." "It's stronger than before." The leader's voice hardened. "That is because the doom has been feeding it. The shadow escaped long ago. It grew. Now it calls the source to rise," the alien envoys gasped. The fleets consumed, the stars extinguished. It had all been part of this. The doom had only been preparing the way. The leader turned at last to the aliens, his face carved with pain but also unshakable resolve. "You were right to fear us, and you were wrong to hope in us. Humanity is not salvation. We are the seal, and every seal must one day break." The words echoed into silence. Then slowly he raised both hands to the sky. His people followed. The towers flared, brighter than suns, brighter than the galaxy had ever seen. The ground tore open, swallowing the plaza, splitting the earth. The humans did not move. They stood as the light consumed them. In orbit, the alien fleets reeled back, blinded by the radiance. Sensors melted under the energy surge. The whole planet glowed, wrapped in chains of fire. And then came the voice, vast, layered, inhuman. It spoke not in words, but in hunger. It spoke in every mind. "You cannot hold me forever." The humans answered as one, their voices united, defiant. "Then we will hold you until the stars themselves die." The light surged. The towers cracked and collapsed inward, dragging the monster's tendrils back into the abyss. The ground sealed with a thunderous boom. The glow dimmed. Silence fell once more. When the dust cleared, the plaza was gone. The towers were gone, and the humans were gone too. The alien envoys stood alone in the ruins, shaking, unable to breathe. In orbit, the council chamber was deathly still. The soldiers whispered prayers, their eyes wide in terror. None dared speak until High Speaker Jaroth finally broke the silence. "They gave everything," he whispered, voice trembling. "They chained it again. But at what cost?" No one answered. Earth lay below, scarred and broken, but silent once more. The great hum was gone. The lock held, for now. But every alien in that fleet, every counselor who witnessed the truth, carried the same dread in their hearts. Humanity had not been the galaxy's greatest threat. Humanity had been the galaxy's shield, and shields, no matter how strong, eventually shatter. As the fleet turned away from Earth, whispers spread among them. They no longer feared humanity because of legends of war or survival. They feared humanity because of the silence, because behind that silence was something too terrible to name, and now they knew. If humanity ever vanished completely, the galaxy would not survive the day that silence broke. The fleets left Earth in silence, their engines burning against the black. None spoke of what they had seen, not out of loyalty but out of terror. To speak of it was to remember the sound of the monster's roar, the hunger that had filled their minds. High Speaker Jiroth sat in his private chamber, staring at the dead world below. The humans were gone. Or perhaps not gone. Only hidden again, buried within the prison they had reforged. He whispered to himself, "Wardens." Not warriors, but deep inside he knew the truth. The seal was weaker now. The Doom's shadow was still out there, feeding, multiplying, spreading across the stars, and the humans had burned their strength to bind the greater source once more. "How long?" Jiroth asked aloud. "Until the lock fails again?" No one could answer. Weeks passed. The galaxy trembled as news spread. Whispers only hushed between captains and couriers. Some said Earth was empty. Others said humans had merged with their machines, vanishing into light. Some claimed Earth had fallen into a pocket of time itself, cut away from the galaxy. But one thing was certain: the Doom did not stop. Fleets vanished. Suns flickered. Shadows spread, and in the void between stars a new horror emerged. It began small, an abandoned station drifting near the galactic rim. A salvage crew boarded seeking scrap. They found no bodies, no signs of struggle. But the walls breathed. By the time their distress call reached the Council, it was already too late. The Doom had not only consumed ships and worlds, it was evolving. It had learned from every race it devoured. It was no longer a shadow. It was becoming whole again. The Council panicked. Armies were raised, alliances reforged. But fear ran deeper than ever. Every councillor remembered Earth. Every leader remembered the glowing humans who had chained the monster beneath their world. And every one of them whispered the same forbidden thought: "Without humanity, we are doomed." But Jiroth was not ready to accept that fate. He studied the data his ships had gathered around Earth, the energy surges, the fragments of human speech, the strange readings from beneath the crust. And then he saw it. The humans were not gone. Their signal pulsed faintly, buried deep in the ruins. Not voices, not words, but coordinates, a pattern repeating through silence. Jiroth called the council into session. "We believed the humans died holding the lock," he said, his voice steady though his heart raced. "But they left us something, a path. They want us to follow." The chamber erupted in shouts. "Madness! You want us to step into their nightmare again?" "They are gone! They cannot help us now." But Jiroth raised his voice, stronger than their fear. "If we do nothing, the Doom will finish what it began. But if humanity left us this path, then perhaps they are not finished. Perhaps they prepared something more." Reluctantly, the council agreed. A small fleet would follow the signal. And so, for the first time in centuries, alien ships set course not for Earth, but beyond it, to the dark corners of the galaxy where humanity had once roamed. The trail led them to a system long thought dead. No suns burned here, only shattered planets and drifting debris. Yet in the darkness they found it, a colossal structure, hidden inside the husk of a broken world. It was not a ship, not a station. It was something older, stranger. A vault. The fleet approached cautiously. Their scanners screamed with interference. The structure was alive, pulsing faintly with the same light they had seen in the humans' eyes. When they entered, they found walls covered in symbols, not alien, but human. Carvings of battles fought, locks forged, monsters chained. And at the center of the vault, a single chamber glowed. Inside, suspended in light, were humans. Hundreds of them, thousands, sleeping, not dead. Their eyes flickered with pale fire, their bodies humming with the same energy as the towers on Earth. The envoys fell silent. One whispered, They did not die. They left guardians behind. As the fleet watched, one of the humans opened her eyes. The glow filled the chamber. She stepped forward, her voice both human and more than human. "You should not have come here." The aliens dropped to their knees, the same way their envoys had done on Earth. "We need you," Jiroth said quietly. "The Doom grows stronger. The seal weakens. Without you, the galaxy will fall." The woman studied him, her expression unreadable. Then she spoke the words that froze every heart. "We warned you once. We told you to stay away. The doom is only a shadow. What lies beneath Earth is the truth. And if we wake fully, if all of us wake, the galaxy will learn why it truly feared humanity." The chamber pulsed with light. The humans stirred in their endless rows, their eyes glowing brighter, and Jiroth finally understood. Humanity had not vanished. They had been preparing, not for war, not for survival, but for the day the galaxy itself would be forced to choose between the doom that consumed them and the humans who had chained something even worse.